Welcome into the Triple Option. I'm Paul Catalina alongside Garrett Ross. We have a lot to get to today. I feel like John Oliver. I've been hard at work, Garrett. I'm very proud of myself.
You should be.
I'm just going to say, in about 24 hours, I learned how to do graphics. And I have made a bunch.
You have.
See, I didn't do that one. That was Matthew. But there's one over here. Like, you can see these graphics here. That one right there, I did that. Now, it's not that big of a deal considering that I am graphicking at like a 7th grade level right now, maybe 8th.
Got to start somewhere.
But, like, you know, your normal average 8th grader is pretty badass at doing these things. Your daughter is a senior in high school, right?
Yep.
She could probably just run circles around me with this without even trying.
Yeah. I was thinking about that this morning, like, because I want to start doing this as well, and I should have been doing this. But, like, we didn't learn this. Like, this is a total different thing. Everything we do, like, we kind of taught ourselves this on the fly. So, like, it's something that I would like to get into, and I've tried before, like with Canva and stuff. I know there are easier ways, but, you know, we got to try. We got to get out there. We don't want to be left behind, Paul.
No, we do not at all. And let me just tell you this. I had computer applications and keyboarding. You took one semester, one the other semester. And keyboarding was just typing. Literally could have been rolled into computer applications. You know, we learned Excel and Word. Like, it was the easiest. Like, most of the time, Coach Cahill, who was the teacher of that class, and a guy who, I promise you, did not know a ton about computers.
Imagine that.
But Coach Cahill would give us a project, we would do it, and then we would play solitaire or free cell or Minesweeper for the rest of the class.
Yeah.
Look, was it a class that has given me any value in today's world? Very little.
No.
But I did really love Coach Cahill. He was great. But I can tell you right now, under no circumstances, did I learn anything in 1997 in that class that applies to today all that much.
No. It's like I came along a little later, so I would have been like the 99 to like 2002, but it was about the same. And like where I went to school, we were one of the poorest schools in the state, so we didn't really have much to work with. But yeah, no, you gotta keep adapting, man. And I'm proud of you, Paul. You should be very happy with yourself.
Yes, I am. I'm thrilled. I am. I'm very proud of how this all went down. And I owe it all to a program that TikTokers use called CapCut. But I figured that out. I've tried to use Canva. I've tried to use other things. CapCut is way easier for me, and I'm not trying to do a commercial for them. They're not paying for anything. But when I mentioned it to Jack, it was like I told him, like, hey, did you guys know the silver handle on the back of the toilet makes it go bye-bye? Like, that's how he reacted to it.
Yeah, he ticks different.
Yeah, he does. He does. So I remember thinking, well, that stings a little bit, Jack, but okay. So, yeah, I don't know what the deal was there, but yeah. So I'm very happy that I've learned to do this. Very, very happy. So, but let's get to college football because there's a lot to get to. You and I have a lot to do between shows today, so I don't want to mince words. I don't want to waste time. By the way, want to mention that the Saints have fired Dennis Allen, their head coach.
Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, they're lost. I wonder when the Cowboys will do the same thing. But there's a lot to get to. So this last week we saw some things that we should have expected. We should expect James Franklin to not win big games.
Correct.
I'm not going to get into the stats right now because I don't want to ruin the badass graphics I made. the main show. But James Franklin against anybody who is perceived, at least before the game, to be better than them, has a win. One. Like, they're really good at being average. Just good.
Yeah.
They're good. Look, Penn State's a good team. They're not a great team.
No.
And I don't know what it's going to take for them to become a great team. But they do not beat. And here's the other thing. We have all this realignment nonsense that's gone on. One of the things I'm loving the most about this year is that this has exposed, particularly SEC and Big Ten, to, hey, maybe, just maybe, you're like all the rest of us.
Yes.
Maybe you're just not all that great. Maybe you did a better job at selling yourself than the other conferences did, but let's make no bones about it. You get bigger TV ratings because you do have big fan bases and big audiences, and that's fine. And the SEC has earned this way more than the Big Ten, but particularly for the Big Ten, you guys have been Ohio State and everyone else until a year ago.
Yep.
And now you bring in Oregon. Guess what? Oregon's already winning that league.
Yeah.
Already winning that league, and already, to me, looks so much better than everyone else that's in it this year.
Which is weird. I really thought, like, I knew Oregon would come in and hang, but you would think that they wouldn't dethrone, and I'm not saying, just like on the field, they dethroned Ohio State this 1 year. I thought it would take a few years for them to kind of come in. I thought they would be able to push Ohio State early on, but now that the way they've handled it this year has been really impressive, and you cannot sleep on the Ducks as like being the front runner of that league going forward.
No, absolutely not. They are so good. And they, in my opinion, have by far the best coach of anybody going right now.
Especially for this era.
Yeah.
I think the modern era, Dan Lanning is the dude you want to play for.
Yeah, he's figured it out.
Yeah.
He's got it figured out. And if you keep going on, like if you keep like getting deeper and deeper into what Oregon's doing and like the tentacles they have and things, he was the guy they always needed because he was a guy who surprisingly wasn't looking out the door.
Right. Yeah. He wants to be there.
He wants to be there. He would be the Alabama coach if he wanted to be.
Yeah.
He would be the A&M coach if he wanted to be. He would be like, there would be, of the jobs that were open last year, all of which have more money than Oregon. I know Oregon has Phil Knight, but Oregon has Phil Knight and then not a lot else.
Right.
Bama and A&M and schools like that, Georgia,
they got oil money.
They may not have a lot of Phil Knights, but they have a lot of smaller Phil Knights, right? Or they might have a Phil Knight wealth-wise and then a bunch of smaller ones. Like Texas has so many. Ohio State has so many, right? Oregon's a pretty small school as it goes, and they have Phil Knight. That's a big deal because it's Nike, and then you can attract athletes because of Nike. But when it comes to, you can't just always go to the one well.
Right.
Right? You have to, like, that's why.
Well, you kind of saw that with Oklahoma State, right? Like, you just had T-Boone, and then once he was gone.
Yeah. You can't just keep going to, like, Texas has many wells to go to.
Right.
If one dries up temporarily because he's mad about, you fired this assistant coach that he liked, or, the kid that went to his high school, never started at quarterback, and he's going to be mad until that coach is gone. Well, guess what? There's two more that didn't like that guy in the first place.
Right.
He's not going to give you his $1 million. We'll give you $2 million.
I got you. Yeah.
We got it. But not every school has that. Dan Lanning is the dude there. But I think the Big Ten's been totally exposed over, all right, you're Ohio State. Yes, Michigan finally came up, but then Harbaugh leaves, and Michigan's right back to, like, they're exactly back where they were.
Yep.
Everybody else is, very cyclical in the Big Ten, just like the rest of the country. Okay? You are Ohio State and everyone else.
Yep.
And so, unfortunately for Washington, had they been able to go in and, with Kalen DeBoer and not have to make a coaching change, that might be a little bit better, but even still, even if Kalen DeBoer comes back, Parker Brailsford, the only starter that would have been there, right? Like, the only one. And he's now at Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. The rest were all graduating and going to the pros because Kalen DeBoer built one hell of a team. So there was going to be a drop-off there for Kalen DeBoer or now for Jed Fish. USC, frauds. I mean, they've got Lincoln Riley
he's in trouble.
He's flailing. Like right now, he is flailing. So, and UCLA, in spite of the win over Nebraska, which I cannot believe happened. I cannot believe that happened.
Pissed, man.
Oh, man. Of all the losses Nebraska's taken this year, they're 5-4 right now.
That was the one.
That one is the one that stings the most. But if you go back to Illinois, that's the one that I feel like they maybe let their momentum get away.
Yeah,
if they don't lose to Illinois, they probably don't lose to UCLA because then that little demon doesn't get in there. Mm. Indiana is its own thing. Ohio State's its own thing. But those two kind of live in a little category together of you should have probably got this.
Should have definitely.
You should have probably got this one. Over on that, they've got 3 games to try to find a win to get to a bowl game, which I think that they will against.
They
these
should
teams.
be able to.
But I was playing well on offense. Now Caleb Johnson's really tough to stop, and so. But all that being said, they're getting $90 million on their TV deal. All right, fine, but don't pretend to me like there's better football being played in the Big Ten than anywhere else.
No,
because it's not.
No.
It's at best the same, and at worst, worse.
Yep.
In a lot of regards. So, yeah, don't send me letters about how the Big Ten is. Oh, it's one of the premier conferences. Yeah, whatever. I'm not buying it. Mm-hmm. There's very little difference. The only difference in the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the ACC is they're 2 big, powerful brands right now, because I promise you, Penn State would not beat Miami.
No, God, no.
They would have a hell of a time with SMU, and they probably would have a hell of a time with Clemson. As much as I think Clemson,
that would actually be a really good game.
Yeah, be a good game. So don't tell me you put Penn State in the ACC and Pitt's not gonna put a charge into them or something like that. No, I'm talking about right now the Big Ten dudes. Or Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana.
Yeah.
Indiana's a good team. I don't know how long that can last, but this Indiana team is really good. They score a ton of points. They're hard to beat. I would put Indiana up against anybody and expect them to give them a game.
Right.
Oregon and Ohio State, I pretty much expect them to win. As a matter of fact, Ohio State's only losses by 1 point to Oregon. So I think Ohio State is way more vulnerable, but in the end, come on. Mm-hmm. This is not what the SEC has been. Okay? And the only reason that they have 3 teams in this discussion, because I don't think Penn State's anything to write home about, and I think they'll make the playoff even still and lose in the first round, is because Oregon, who wasn't even in their conference a year ago, is in it now.
Yep.
So yeah, this is a pretty severe rant, I know, in the Big Ten, but this is what I felt all along of, you
were going to get about what? You were going to add probably 5 to 6 good matchups a year, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
But that was it.
Yeah. I mean, and so, that's why the realignment thing, there's 2 sides to this. Now, in the SEC, they have potential right now for an 8-way tie, which won't happen, but please, honestly, if I have to throw a sheep into a volcano or something, I'll do that.
I'm all for it.
Just please, I would love to see. I want to see the tiebreakers used to the last tiebreaker in all these leagues because of realignment.
Yeah.
I think it's what they deserve.
It is what they deserve.
It's what they deserve.
The most chaos as possible.
Yes. Again, create. What was was it in Russia or in China? Do you remember that China, they had that traffic jam that just lasted for months?
I don't remember that.
It was a few years ago. They had it was in Russia or China. I think it was in China where they had to shut down a road for construction, and then the plan on where to route the cars was not a good one.
Did not go well.
And they had a traffic Mageddon or whatever they called it, and then people just had to leave the car until they finished the road. Basically, it was awful. That's what happened. Or if you remember a few years ago in Atlanta, about a decade ago when they had we had a freeze. They had a freeze.
Oh, yeah. And everybody, yes, I remember that.
There was like snow.
Abandoned on the
and
interstate.
everybody got stuck there.
Yep.
My favorite story about that is Chipper Jones went to go get Freddie Freeman. Chipper Jones rode out there on his ATV and picked up Freddie Freeman and left the car there. So, yeah, like that's what I want. I want that metaphor to come to life in college football. I want the biggest traffic jam ever.
Well, I think we're starting to get that. If you look at the AP poll, it's definitely indicating that. I still have some questions about how all that unfolded. There's teams who have like head-to-head wins that are above, and it just doesn't make any sense. But the parity's here, and I think the parity's going to stay. I think also like it's catching up to we've talked about it, but the rosters, you're not able to hoard the players. You're seeing more talent go out. I think you're going to see more and more programs year in and year out, like Indiana, where you have these teams who just kind of get hot at the right time and have big seasons. And I think you could look at it like you did last year, where Florida State was that team, kind of like Indiana, and then you just weren't able to sustain it. But I think this is kind of the new landscape of college football. I'm interested to see how many people can capitalize off of it. And then does it change when all the NIL and everything goes in-house and then the schools are required for everything? Does that bring more I wouldn't say like does that benefit the Blue Bloods more than it used to? Does that kind of counteract the parity we're starting to see?
I think it will a little bit, because they can say, well, we're going to give the full this amount.
Yeah.
And some schools are like, well, we can only give.
We can only do this.
You're going to give the 22%. We can only do 17.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there's only so many people you can put on a roster, and I think the difference will be mostly negligible, and we'll see what happens in 2031 when the new contracts are up. Let's take our first break right now. When we come back, I want to rattle through some important games of the week that shook things up. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.